Hey bag maker, I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness, and today I'm going to be talking about a pattern I was working on that didn't quite work out, but I wanted to talk through it anyway. New fabric that I've added to my stash. The book review will be for a book called The Quilting Experience by Victoria Finley Wolfe. Today's bag lab will be how to make a side pocket that secures with a cord lock, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday, my monthly sewing chat. Hey everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to Social Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me for this show. My usual spam reminder, if you're watching over on Facebook and you receive a private message from a logo that looks just like our Sew Sweetness logo, usually they're sending you a link, asking you to click on it to pay for a prize. Please don't give them credit card information, your address, phone number. Don't give them any personal information, and please do report or block that. And if you're watching over on YouTube and you've left a comment on the show and you receive a reply to your comments, again, it usually looks just like our Sew Sweetness logo, and they're often asking for similar things like payment for a prize or your address. Please also report or block that. We don't ask for payment for prizes, we just send them or give them out, and I always announce the winner's name verbally on the show, and we also have the winner's name typed into the description of the show as well, just so that you can double check. And everything that I'm scheduled to talk about during today's show, I've linked to in the description, so if you're interested in finding out more about any of the books, fabrics, notions, or projects that I talk about during Social Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. So I wanted to talk to you about, I know on last show I said I was finishing up a free pattern that I had coming for a wheelchair bag, and while I did sort of finish it, after I finished the bag I talked to some friends who were either wheelchair users themselves or they had a loved one that used a wheelchair, and they had some specifics that they were looking for. And anyway, so let me show you what I originally came up with, and then I will discuss why I don't think this works and why I'm back to the drawing board. And I think I have another idea, but I'm going to give it a little bit of time to percolate. So I came up with this boxy style bag with removable swivel clips on either end, and I added some slip pockets, and there's a zipper pocket on the front, and it also secures with a zipper on the top, and there's some Velcro straps on the back to attach it to either an arm rest of a wheelchair or a walker. So after I finished this, I learned a whole bunch of things. The first being, I designed this as a small bag, in my opinion, first, and a wheelchair or a walker bag second, and I think that was the flaw in my original design. Talking to several people, number one, the top zipper. So I did talk to some wheelchair users that had hand mobility issues, and top zip closure like this is not ideal. One, for the zipper that needs to be opened, and two, this needs to open a little bit wider to easily see what's on the inside. I recognize that not all wheelchair or walker users have hand mobility issues, but some do. So that's one thing that I would like to adjust for what will be the actual pattern. So I thought perhaps a recessed zipper option would be better, or I wanted to offer two options, either a recessed zipper or a flap. My thinking with the flap would be invisible magnetic snaps, so that the flap is easier to open and shut. I'm sure you're familiar with traditional magnetic snaps that kind of clip into place, and sometimes you need to get it kind of like right at the center of the snap in order for it to clip into place. What I like for this particular bag with the invisible magnetic snaps instead is that you just kind of, I have a few patterns that use invisible magnetic snaps, and you just kind of close the flap and it kind of finds its place. It finds the other magnet, and it's, in my opinion, a little bit easier to open and close. So those are the two things that I would like to change with this top closure of the bag. The other issue is once I finished the Velcro on the webbing on the back of the bag, I did not like how I tested it by putting it on a metal rod, and I did not like how the bag tipped forward once you had it secured onto what I'm imagining would be an armrest for a wheelchair, or maybe perhaps the front of the walker. So I decided this closure needed to change as well. And the number one main issue when I talked to people that had wheelchair users in their life is that every wheelchair is different. Also, every walker is different. And so some people had as small as 1 inch space between the armrest of the wheelchair and the wheels. Some had more space than that, maybe 4 inches. And so designing a specific sized bag, I realized was going to be really hard to accommodate different sizes of especially wheelchairs. And I didn't want people to come looking for a wheelchair pattern and feel frustrated that it didn't work for their particular wheelchair. So I sort of sat with the feedback for a little while, and I decided that I think a bag like this would be better served if it worked off of particular measurements of a bag that you're looking for. You might be familiar with my sewing machine cover. That's one of my patterns that works off of the measurement of your item that you're putting inside, rather than giving you finished measurements to cut out all of your fabric pieces. So I'm thinking I will likely go that route for a wheelchair and walker bag, just because then you don't have to make huge modifications to the bag to make it work for fitting under, say, the armrest of a wheelchair. So I'm going to sit with that thought for a little bit. If you have any thoughts about what I just mentioned, feel free to email me anytime. Danny's going to put my email address up on the screen. It's sarah@sewsweetness.com. What I've learned in the last year or so is whenever I sit with an idea for a while, maybe like put it to the side, but it's kind of still in my thoughts, the ideas tend to come to me better than if I try to force things. Whereas I realized I had issues with this particular pattern, and if I just try to drill it, that tends not to work for me. And I know that doesn't also work in other situations in my life. When I just try to drill at something, it's not going to be as good as if I just wait for the answer and then just let the answer come to me when it's ready. So I think I'm going to do that with this particular bag. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit longer for the wheelchair or walker pattern, but I think it will be worth the extra time and extra thought on my part. So just wanted to give you an update on that, since I know I said it was kind of imminently approaching. I mean, I thought when I finished taking all the step photos, I thought I was good with the bag. And then I'm glad I talked to some more people after it was finished to see what would be best served for a pattern like this. So anyway, that's my thoughts about this particular project that I've been working on. Since we are in the month of October, I'm working on a non-sewing project, but it's Halloween related, so I wanted to show you. It's first, let me follow that up with, I learned to crochet this year in January specifically, and my first crochet projects were the Woobles. You might have seen me mention this on a previous Social Sunday show. I'm gonna have Danny switch to the overhead camera. So this was one of my early Woobles, and I think it looks really cute. There's a little bit of space in between the stitches in some areas where you can kind of see the stuffing on the inside, but overall I was really happy with how they turned out. I've been doing some experimenting recently with a different yarn than the yarn that comes in the Woobles kits. So if you're not familiar, the kits come with all the supplies you need, including the yarn, and it's sort of a cotton, I don't want to call it cording, but this yarn doesn't split, which is why it works well for beginners. So I kind of experimented earlier this month on different yarns. This is a light DK yarn, and as you can see, I started making the frog using this different yarn, and as you can see, it's teeny tiny, much smaller, and I realized I don't really care for working with such tiny crochet projects. So I thought I would just work with some more Woobles. My daughter Violet, Violet's 16, she said, Mom, why are you still working on those kits? You know, you're not a beginner anymore. You know, these are beginner kits. And I said, I just really enjoy making them, and they take a kind of a short amount of time to finish. So I finished all my Woobles Halloween kits, little Frankenstein. I just wanted to show you just because I thought they were so cute. This one, you crochet the penguin, and then you crochet the pumpkin costume separately, and then the penguin just goes in through this opening. So you can take the penguin out if you want and put a different Wooble in there for a Halloween costume. This one's a cat with a cape, a witch hat, and a broom. I don't really enjoy making the smaller accessories, but I think in certain aspects they're important for the finished look of the project. Oh, I also should mention I'm using a different yarn for the facial features and different eyes. So I bought separate eyes online. I think these are 6mm, and this is that light DK weight yarn. This is Cascade Yarns Pandemonium. So I just wanted the facial features to be a little bit smaller than, say, my original facial features using the yarn that was in the kit. I got 2 more. I've got this little ghost. The yarn is actually glow in the dark. It actually does glow. And then my favorite one is the bat right here. So very simple to put together. I did yarn under, yarn over for this if you're a little bit more experienced with crochet, but they were just really fun. I have some Christmas ones coming up, but I just wanted to share these with you. I know it's not sewing related, but just a fun little project. And I know a lot of kids are making these as well. So they come with the pattern, the step-by-step video, and they're really easy to put together. Okay, so I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. What is your favorite candy? Seeing as Halloween is coming up later this month, let me know in the comments what your favorite candy is. I like, my friend Bronwyn recently sent me some chocolate bars from New Zealand. The brand is called Whitaker's, and I really like their, they have like a fruit crumble and caramel filled also. So I really love fruits as well as caramel filled candies. Yeah, just, I have a lot of favorites, but those are my recent favorites that I gobbled up recently. We have a couple new fabrics in the shop right now. Danny's going to switch back to the overhead camera so that I can show you. We've had this cheetah print cork in the past. We haven't had it in a while, but I just got it back in. It's on our natural cork background, and we had some requests after I stopped carrying it, so I thought to bring it back again into the shop. Link is in the description if you're interested in the cheetah cork. And I have one new backpack in the shop. This is sort of a, it's not exactly a batik, but the design makes me think of batiks. It's a new floral print, and the backpacks are both of these prints, 1 yard of each, with the black background. I think the colors really stand out strikingly against the black background, which is why I love this particular pairing. And then these are not in the shop, but just some fabrics that I've picked up to add to my stash. So I just really love, the fabric line is called Night Garden. This is bees and honeycombs. It's a digital print, and I really like the striking colors. It's got a 1-panel design in the fabric line. I didn't pick up every single fabric from the line, but I did pick out a few. I didn't get the hedgehog. There's a smaller hedgehog print, but if you like hedgehogs, there's also a hedgehog fabric in the fabric line. And then there's some more designs on the other side. I really like the owl. There's also an owl print, which I did not get. Lizard over here. There's a moth, and then there's like a strip of floral on the side of this particular fabric. And then I have 2 more. I just love the bright colors. I got a little bit of extra of this particular print. And then hummingbirds as well. Just, I don't think they come out as striking on camera as they do in person, but these fabrics are super bright and I really love them. I think the bee one's my favorite though, just because of the white or the yellow interspersed with the bee designs. All right, so I've linked to all of these fabrics in the description in case you're interested in checking them out after the show. And I wanted to share with you a couple of bags, of viewer made bags made in using different substrates, just to give you some ideas of different fabrics that you can use for your Sew Sweetness projects. Chanova from That's So Nova made this small size Cumberland backpack. She added this Winnie the Pooh patch on the front. And this one is made in several different colors of waxed canvas, which I think they pair really well together, and I like kind of the rustic look. I think it goes together well with the patch. And I wanted to share, if Danny, if you could switch to the overhead camera really quick. She also has these Winnie the Pooh Eeyore zipper pulls on the top of the bag, which Eeyore's my favorite, so I really love these. Great job, Chanova. I've also linked to Chanova's social media in the list of links. And this one was made by Amy from Bed Hog Shop. This is the Compass Carpet Bag, which is one of the 4 new patterns, and she made it using a Star Wars theme, so a Star Wars bit of bling on the front, Star Wars themed quilted vinyl. I really love the modification that she made with the handles on the front and the back. And this is the one, Danny, if you wouldn't mind switching to the overhead, this is the one that secures with the metal frame. Love the Star Wars zipper pull too. I love it in the vinyl because it just pops open so nicely, and Amy added this slip pocket with some quilting cotton on the inside, and the tag says made in a galaxy far, far away. Super love that. Really clever. Love this. This feels like Essex linen on the inside, perhaps. And just really love how this turned out. And I've also linked to Amy's web shop in the description. She's got some handmade bags in case you'd like to check out the creativity. But love this one. I know Danny loves this one as well, right, Danny? Star Wars theme. The book review for today will be for a book I recently got. I ordered a signed copy just from years of going to trade shows. I know I have met a lot of the authors that I review on the show in person, so whenever I can get a signed copy of any particular book, I jump at the chance. But today's book is called The Quilting Experience by Victoria Finley Wolfe, and this is a really great book. I'm going to have Danny switch to the overhead camera, but this is a really great book if you like having patterns in your book as well as a written work so that you can read through. I'll explain in a minute and you'll see what I'm talking about, but here's one of the sampler books in the quilt and her cute dogs underneath the quilt. But the book is a mix of Victoria's words and also words from her quilting friends about the process of quilting, and it's just a really lovely book. Here's another of the sampler quilts that you can use from the block instructions throughout the book. Here's another one. All right, so each chapter is a different topic, and then you can read Victoria's words as well as words from people she knows on the topic. So this chapter is identity, and this is the quilt block that you'll learn how to make in this particular chapter. So the quilt blocks are illustrations, really easy to understand. And I bookmarked one of the stories that I just wanted to read out loud. This one is from Carol Weselick, and it's about contentment. And I wanted to read this because it applies not only to quilt making, but also to bag making or any other creative process, especially things that we do with our hands. But Carol says, on the topic of contentment, I spent decades building, fostering, and prioritizing my career. Throughout advanced education, weekly business travel, leading and supporting teams, and providing solutions for customers, I aimed to serve up what was next asked of me. Though that was rewarding and productive in providing for my family, my inner heart did not quite feel connected to the present. I was quietly seeking contentment. Unexpectedly, I found it at my first quilt retreat. Yes, I learned to create designs with new eyes, new tools, and new techniques. Cut it up. It's only fabric. Move those pieces around on the design wall. Watch how your eyes move across the design. I learned all of those creative processes to really expand my quilter repertoire. But what I did not expect was the transformation of identity. The explosive change to my inner self, how I gave permission to see myself, let go, cry a few tears, and embrace the change that was taking place. I learned to open my heart to be comfortable with exploring the unknown. My quilt started with a vision and a pile of fabric. I thought I had a plan for the design, but then I began to play with colors or their placement, and the design shifted. I gave myself permission to be fearless in creating, and in this process, a truth was revealed. I could be content in the present moment, void of fear, absent of doubt, and lacking any shame. As I was embracing risks, creating parts, and building a design, my heart was also letting go of the self that was always present for others and just being present to myself. I was giving myself permission to surround myself with creative cohorts and not feeling weakened by domineering voices of my daily work life. The self-discovery was profound. A few tears for the years I spent searching, gratitude to reconnect with the spirit of quilting in my late grandma Angela M. Gay and great grandma Clara Wickline, appreciation that I could create something that holds meaning, and revelation of the truth that I experienced my deepest inner peace and flow while creating. I discovered I am where I need to be, and I am learning what I need to learn in this very moment, the essence of contentment. So I thought, I really loved reading through all the stories. It's quite a thick book. It's over 200 pages long, so it's a combination of the quilt patterns, stories, and thoughts on being creative. So here's another example of one of the blocks in the book. And there's also some full quilts created from every block, as well as the blocks can be used in the sampler quilt. So there's also a chapter on aging. These are the 2 quilt blocks demonstrated in this particular chapter. I bookmarked this really fun quote about sewing in this chapter of aging. You are never too old for a new sewing machine. I love that. A chapter on teaching and learning lessons. Here's the block for that particular chapter. This one's about friendship. You never know when a chance encounter with a fellow quilter will blossom into a beautiful friendship. So I think that's definitely true of my creative life. I have so many friends from having creativity in common. That's the block for the travel chapter. There's also a chapter on remembering and grief, and those are the 2 blocks for that particular chapter. There's one on food. There's so many topics covered. I love the themes for each chapter. I love the blocks, and I think this is really different than other quilt or craft related books that I've come across in the past. So here's what you can do with the blocks. There's a sampler quilt, which is the one that I showed with the dogs earlier. There's also kind of instruction for laying out your blocks based on the different size and kind of mixing and matching, putting different blocks in different positions to make your own sampler type quilt. And then some of the quilts were made using single blocks or maybe just a couple different blocks in the book. I really like this one. I love the bold blue on the back, on the darker background. And then I'm just going to flip through the rest of the books. There's a few templates that you can copy from the back of the book, but most of the cuts for the blocks are just squares and rectangles. There's a couple of pillows in the book too for some quicker projects. Love the color combination of this one. And I think I've just got 2 more in here to show. So my eye really went to the sampler quilt, but like this one also, templates, like I mentioned, are in the back of the book. And again, the book is called The Quilting Experience by Victoria Finley Wolfe, and you can find a link to Victoria's website in case you'd like to order a signed copy. You can find that there. This being October, I wanted to recommend for this month's fiction recommendation a horror book, but I don't really read horror, so I asked my daughter Violet for a recommendation. So this is Violet's recommendation for fiction book for this month. It's called The Housemaid. Danny's going to put a picture of the cover up on the screen. Violet did give me a little asterisks that there was some violence in this particular book. So if that's not your thing, just so you know that that's included in some of the content of the book, but Violet highly recommends it with 2 thumbs up. So if you enjoy reading horror, you can check out The Housemaid for the month of October. So I have another question for you that you can answer in the comments. In talking about the Quilting Experience book, what is your favorite get-together with friends? Maybe you like to go to your local restaurant or coffee shop just to get together and talk. I met my friend Steph the other day, and we went out to, it was kind of an early dinner, and we brought some crochet projects and we ate and then we crocheted. So that was fun. Let me know in the comments what kinds of things you like to do with your friends. All right, Danny, let's get over to your pick of the month.
Sorry about that. My pick of the month is Amy made this altered Sheffield bag, and it just looked awesome. Karen made this Heartlands backpack, and I love the fabric, the black and the whites. Kim made this Cumberland, 3 of them for her grandkids, and that's just super cool. LaToya made the Rockstar, and I love the fabric she chose as well. And then Robert made the Chickadee, and all of them are very unique and awesome. Great job, everyone.
Yeah, great job. We do have our So Sweetness Facebook group where you can share photos of your So Sweetness makes. I have a link to the group in the description of the show, so in case you'd like to join if you aren't already a member. And, all right, Danny, are you ready?
Ready for what?
Bag Lab.
We're interrupting the show for a special report because now it is time for Bag Lab.
All right, today's Bag Lab, I wanted to demonstrate how to make a side pocket for a bag that closes with a cord lock and some cording. So I've had this request in the past, and this particular demonstration will work if you're working on a bag that has a side panel, like a separate side panel. So I created 3 printable templates as sort of a guide. I'll have Danny switch to the overhead camera so I can start explaining what the templates look like. So I created 3 sizes of templates for a side pocket. This will depend solely on the size of your, kind of the width of your side panel of whatever pattern that you're working on, and also the height of, the finished height of the pocket that you'd like to have. So feel free to make adjustments if your side panel is a little bit different size than either of these 3 examples. I'll just talk about the size large one, which is the one I'm going to be using for today's demonstration. So this particular pocket will work for a side panel that measures 5.5 inches, just because the bottom edge of my pattern piece measures 5.5 inches unfinished. And I have a few pieces of fabric that you'll need to cut out. You'll need, I'll start from the bottom, I guess. You'll need a piece of nylon or cotton cording that's either 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter in thickness. And I went ahead before I cut, because this was from yardage, before I cut this off. Actually, Danny, would you mind zooming in? Before I cut this piece off from the yardage, I went ahead and wrapped some Scotch tape around it, and then cut through it after, just so I could prevent this from fraying. So you need the cotton cording. You'll need either a single cord lock or a double cord lock. You'll just want enough space for the cording to go through. Actually, you'll need 2 layers of the cording to go through. Here's my pattern piece all cut out. You'll be cutting that out to the outside of the thick black line. You'll also need 2 pieces cut from ripstop, and all the information is on this piece. I use 64 GSM weight of ripstop, which I've used in the Miss Flower water bottle tote as well, this particular weight. You'll need 1 piece of lining fabric cut from your pattern piece. You'll need a piece of exterior cut from your pattern piece with shape flex attached to the back. And you'll also need whatever side panel you're working from, whatever pattern. You'll need the side panel attached to the interfacing, which I have here. And this is obviously not a whole entire side panel. I just cut enough so that you could see visually how we're going to be attaching that at the end. Okay, so we're going to start off by working with the ripstop. So you should have 2 pieces of ripstop. They look the same on both sides. So I'm going to place them right sides together and pin along the short ends. Okay, so I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and before I do, I'm going to make some marks on it with my ruler. And I'm going to measure 1 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge and make a mark. And I'm going to do the same thing from the top. I'm going to measure 1 1/4 of an inch down from the top edge and make a mark. Okay, so we're going to be sewing this particular piece using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use my regular stitch length, so on my machine that is 2.5 millimeters. I'm going to sew down from the top edge, and I'm going to stop sewing where the first 1 1/4 inch marking is. I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to pick it up at the second marking and then sew back down to the bottom, and that, again, that's going to be 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now, overhead please, thank you. Now we're going to press the seam open, and I'm just going to finger press, I just didn't want to have extra things on the table with my iron today. I'm going to finger press the seam open, and then I'm going to bring the fabrics so that they are raw edges aligned. Now, before we do that, keep that finger press, and we're going to stitch, top stitch to either side of the seam 1/8 of an inch away, and as you can see, the center is open because we left that opening unstitched. So we'll have 2 lines of stitching, each 1/8 of an inch away from the seam line. Okay, so now we're going to fold this wrong sides together so that both of the long edges meet. I'm going to add some wonder clips just to hold the lower edge. And we're going to stitch this lower edge using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So again, we're stitching just these raw edges together. Okay, now go ahead and take out your pieces that you cut from the pattern piece. And we're going to start by taking out the exterior piece attached to the inner facing. And I'm just going to flip this piece. I'm going to center it so you'll have a little bit of overhang of the ripstop on either side. And the top raw edges will be aligned. So I'm just going to put a couple wonder clips to hold this in place. And then we're also going to add directly on top the lining. So I cut my lining from a solid so it looks the same on both sides, but you'll want to put the right side of the lining face down. So again, you want your right side face down, and I'm going to add it to the wonder clips. Okay, so I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. I'm going to be sewing with the wrong side of the exterior face up on the bed of my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch just this top pinned edge using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now I'm going to flip the fabrics so that my 2 pocket pieces are wrong sides together. I'm going to use some wonder clips just to hold the bottom edge. And I'm just going to finger press. If you prefer, you can take your iron and press the fabric instead. I'm just going to finger press for this particular demonstration. I'm going to take this back over to the sewing machine. I'm going to be stitching on top of the pocket fabric, so this darker blue fabric. And I'm going to top stitch 1/8 inch away from the edge of this darker blue fabric from one end to the other, and I'm going to increase my stitch length to 3 millimeters for this top stitching. Okay, you can go ahead and leave the wonder clips on the bottom edge for now. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a horizontal line on top of the ripstop. The line is going to be 1/2 inch down from the top edge, and actually I'm going to draw this line using some chalk. Okay, so now go ahead and take out your cording, and I'm going to be using a bodkin for this. You can also use a safety pin if you prefer. I just like the bodkin. It's a little bit, I find it to be a little bit more reliable for this. So the metal just pushes down and it holds the cording in place so that it doesn't come out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and thread that through. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to cut this into two separate pieces. And I'm going to pin it in place, the cut end, so that it doesn't shift. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other half. I'm going to wonder clip this in place as well, and then remove that bodkin. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to do two things. First off, I'm going to stitch the cording down so that it doesn't pull through the ripstop. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to top stitch on top of that 1/2 inch line that we drew, and that will form a casing so that the cording stays near the top of the ripstop. Now we're going to attach this piece to the side panel. Again, this is for whatever pattern you're working on, and the side panel should fit the bottom edge of your pocket piece. So I'm going to go ahead and pin the bottom edge so that it's aligned, and I'm also going to bring the side edge of the pocket piece so that it matches the side edge of the side panel that we're attaching it to. And this will give the top edge and the center of the pocket a little bit of a lift. And again, you might need to modify the printable pattern pieces so that they'll work with the project that you're working on. And an easy way to do that is just to take the pattern piece and either add to the place on the fold area or decrease that area as well. And you can also decrease or increase the height of the pocket if you need something a little bit different. So this is what it looks like once it's pinned together. And I'm going to go ahead and sew the pinned edges 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. Okay, so this is what that looks like. And last thing we need to do is insert the cording into the cord lock. So you want to make sure the pieces have some Scotch tape on them just to make it easier to insert. And then this is what it will look like once the cord lock is in place, and you can certainly increase the length of the cording if you'd like, depending again on the size of your pocket. And then you'll proceed with whatever pattern you're working on, and this will just get sewn into the seams. But I think this is a great option for, especially if you'd like to cinch your pockets, make them more secure, or just add a little bit of a different visual interest to some of your projects. So I hope you enjoyed that demonstration for adding the corded pocket to the sides of your bag. All right, so we're going to actually move the live Q&A to next month's show, the November show. But before we go, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway and then give you the information for the October giveaway. So last month's winner was M. Harley Girl Flood. So congratulations to you. Again, that was M. Harley Girl Flood. Was the winner from last month's show. And the giveaway for this month's show is the backpack of your choice from our shop, and you can find that in the shop section under cotton fabric. To enter the giveaway, all you need to do is leave a comment on today's show, and we add up all the comments from Facebook and YouTube. You have until the end of the day this Saturday to leave a comment on the show, and I will announce the winner on next month's show. I have an extra question for you that you can answer in the comments for an extra method of entry. And my extra question is very cut and dry. I'd like to know if you're right-handed or left-handed, so just let me know in the comments. And again, I'll announce the giveaway winner on next month's show. Our November show will be on November 3rd, so it's always the first Sunday of the month, and next month will be on November 3rd. Our usual time is 7 p.m. Central Time, and if you miss any of the shows, you can watch the recording of the show anytime over on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me for Social Sunday. I hope you had a great time. I had a lot of fun demonstrating that corded pocket, and I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.